You are listening to a new episode of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's Ryan, and this week I'm joined by Matthew Ryan of Envy-Born Games. Hey, thanks for being here with me today. I'm so excited to have you on to tell everybody about yourself and Envy-Born Games. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here for sure. Basically, I'm Matthew Ryan, and I have a indie publishing company called Envy-Born Games, and we make board games. Right now, we have a game on Kickstarter called Mind Your Business, and we've made a few games before that. And yeah, I'm just here to talk about board games and my love and passion for it.
Awesome. Yeah. So, here on the Game Deflators Podcast, we always like to talk about games we've recently picked up and games we're currently playing. So, what have you been picking up or playing recently?
Right. So I guess most recently I've picked up two games that, again, they're on Kickstarter. I like to support other indie small publishers. The one's called Lunar Rush by Dead Alive Games. Really great publisher. I've met him at a bunch of conventions. He's a great guy. But it's a 1 to 4 player Euro style game where you're in space and you're mining different resources and sending them back to Earth. And it was really fun. It plays 1 to 4, like I said. So there is a solo mode. And then the other one is a game called Fortify by the guys at Barreled Age Games. And their first game was called Moonshine Empire. And this is a new 2-player game they're doing where you're building forts and throwing water balloons back and forth at each other. But there's kind of like a speed element to it where you're trying to place pieces before your opponent because you get bonus dice rolls and stuff like that. So those are two games I've picked up but won't have for a while. And then one that I played recently that I really enjoyed was Flamecraft, which is starting to fulfill to all of its backers, which had an amazing campaign, as some might know. But it's basically a worker placement resource management style game where you play as dragons, and each turn scales and you get stronger and stronger every turn, it seems like. But I only got to play it once, but I did enjoy it, and I'd like to play it, again and give it a few more tries. But initial take on it was fun game, and it's also adorable, so I think people will really like that as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I've been out of the board game scene for a little bit. I haven't really been going out and hanging with people, so I haven't had that much time to go out, but I would like to get into more board games. I just found this place recently that is it's got like a bar and a whole bunch of games that you can just get, and then they got like a little shop store up front. So I've been going there and playing some Magic with some friends, just doing some like casual drafting. But they've got so many games there, and I'd love to get into more. But I always feel like you need somebody who's like played the game and knows what it's about, because it's hard to just dive right into a set of rules and just get at it for me.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor for sure. There are a lot of games out there, and there's a lot of good games out there. But I had a game group. There was 5 of us in it, and we would probably play 2 to 3 new games every week for like a year and a half. And I still feel like I haven't played anything because people are like, "Have you played this game?" I'm like, no, I haven't. But I've literally been playing games nonstop for a year and a half. But I'm lucky, and the couple that host it, they typically learn the rules and will have it ready for us when we get there set up. The setup takes a long time sometimes, but I've joined a few other game groups and stuff like that as well. And typically what happens is a few people will bring games. And if you bring a game, you should know how to play it, obviously, so you can teach everyone the rules. And then amongst all of you, you can kind of decide what games you want to play. But, sometimes, yeah, you gotta learn the rules ahead of time. Or I typically will watch like how to play videos on YouTube a lot because it's easier for me to learn that way visually, with the rule book with me as well. But yeah, if you find a group where everyone's willing to kind of learn some games, it kind of works out versus one person taking the majority of the workload of learning everything.
Yeah, and I suppose it's like any skill set. Like with video games, sometimes you take for granted, like if you hand a controller to somebody who's never played a first-person shooter and expect them to just understand dual analog control, it takes them a little bit. So I'm sure that with board games, the more you play, you pick up things that it's like, oh, I've seen these mechanics elsewhere that makes it maybe
Yeah.
easier to jump in.
Yeah, definitely. You get more familiar with different mechanisms in the game, like you said, like if it's a resource management or worker placement or whatever it is. So you're more familiar with that. So when you come across that in a rule book or something you're learning, you understand what that is versus the first time. But there's definitely some games that are good for people to start off with if they're getting into the hobby that have like lower weight to them is what it's called. So it's easier to kind of learn and pick it up, and then as you get more comfortable you can kind of progress into like higher level games. So for instance, I would never recommend like a new gamer to pick up Mage Knight because it has like a gigantic manual that literally there's like 4 hour long YouTube tutorials on how to like learn this game.
It's like
So
D&D
that probably,
light.
yeah, that probably turned somebody off if that was like their first game that they played. You know, I'd probably be like, hey, try Ticket to Ride, and then other lighter games like that, so they can get comfortable and progress from there.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, John bought Gloomhaven and we opened it up and looked at it, and I don't think he's opened it since.
Yeah, Gloomhaven, that's definitely a bigger one for sure. They came out with what was it? It's called something of the Lion. I can't even remember, but it was like mini Gloomhaven where it's a book. It has less setup. Jaws of the Lion. Sorry, I was brain fart in there for a minute, but that was a lot more like easier for people to pick up and learn. It doesn't have much setup, as many pieces and stuff like that, but it still gives you that game feeling. So that released, I think, 2 years ago, and it did really well.
Yeah. Well, so for me lately, I haven't really picked anything new up. I'm notorious for being the one who doesn't pick up stuff and doesn't play games as much. John's the big collector out of the two of us. I'm supposed to be practicing Street Fighter 4 so that I can get ready for Street Fighter 6 to come out. I've got
Okay.
my eye on Persona 5 Royal is coming out for Game Pass on the 20th. So I'm hoping I can get me and my wife into that. Um, what did I play? Oh, I did start playing Animal Crossing. Have you ever played Animal Crossing?
I have played Animal Crossing. I got a Switch and it came with it, so I was like, "Let me pop this in and try it out." I had a few friends who play it, so like I visited their island or whatever, you know. But I was into it for a while, and then ultimately, though, I was just kind of like, "This is kind of just a grind fest, really."
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of got over it. But I will say I absolutely love Breath of the Wild, like
Yeah.
probably everyone else. I mean, my only complaint, and I don't necessarily hate it or love it, and just kind of indifferent towards it, was like the weapons breaking all the time, which I think everyone kind of feels the same way about. But I'm
Yeah.
really excited for the new one that's coming out, obviously. But yeah, I've been playing games since Nintendo, so I love the Zelda series, and if I had to pick a game series that's my absolute favorite, I'd probably say Metal Gear Solid, hands down.
There
I
you go.
just had the PlayStation growing up, and I loved it so much. I love everything about Metal Gear Solid.
I really have an affinity for that game, but I've never played more than like 2 hours of the first one, and that's
Oh
about it.
no.
I've watched a bunch of content on it, and I love Kojima and his style, and the lore of those games is really interesting. I just haven't delved into it myself. I'm hoping that we're going to get some like sweet HD remakes or something.
Yeah, I will say I kind of played them way out of order too, because they're all kind of funky how they were released and their timeline of when they happened.
Yeah.
But I remember when Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty came out, I had the demo, and I played that
Oh
demo
yeah.
probably like 50 times
Like
to
everybody, yeah.
completion. And when that game came out, I got it. And I remember I sat down for legitimately like a full like 24 hours and just played it all the way through till I beat it. Like I was a young kid, I had no responsibilities, and I was just like, I was obsessed. I was so obsessed with that game.
Were you upset by the twist?
No, no,
Okay.
that's Metal Gear.
Well, that's where I thought you were going, because like everybody played the demo, and then it's like you're riding the whole game, and everybody's like,
Yeah,
"Why?"
it was strange, but I was like, I just accepted it. I was like, all right, this is who I am.
See, that's one of those things I'm gonna miss out on. Like, I'm gonna miss out on that experience of like having that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Well, there was
I'll get
the
there one day.
from the first one. And I think it's safe to say this because it's like 30 years
Oh
later or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
or 25. But when you're playing, what's the one boss, Psycho Mantis or something like
yeah,
that, and you had to actually change the controller port from the first player to the second player so he couldn't read what you were doing.
yeah,
That was like mind blowing at the time. I was just like,
yeah.
what is happening here? Like that was some next level stuff for sure.
Man, they need to figure out some way to get that into like a board game. Like you draw a card and it's like, I see you have Munchkin on your shelf.
I did play a game where they broke the fourth wall like that. It was called The King's Dilemma. It's like a legacy style game. And we played in our group of five. I think it took us like 15 rounds to complete it, like gameplays. But you're these different factions and houses in a kingdom, maybe like, like Game of Thrones style, where you're making decisions with the king and voting to do stuff in the kingdom when decisions come up. But there was like, I don't remember, and you can go different paths based off what's decided in the game. Like no one has the same experience, but we got to one point where like we broke the fourth wall to the player, and it was like, am I just in a game? Nothing's real. Like what's going, like, it was like really weird, but I was like, that was the first time I've seen that happen in a game. I don't know if it's happened before, but they actually have a game coming out called The Queen's Dilemma, which I am so excited for because, my group really loved that game.
The King's Dilemma. I'm gonna write that down. And the Queen's Dilemma. Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun one for sure.
All right. So, we've talked a little bit about some other games. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Mind Your Business? The Kickstarter's live. That's what we're here to talk about. Let the people
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, thanks. I guess we should get to that at some point, huh? But yeah, so my newest game, it's called Mind Your Business. It's a spatial puzzle game that encourages clever planning ahead and pattern recognition. So often you have to plan a few turns in advance, because basically what you're trying to do is manipulate the board in front of you by rotating and swapping different cards. To create long lines of resources. So I guess I should have started with you're a magical gnome in a magical mind collecting resources, right? So this, has some context and makes sense. But you make these long lines of resources by manipulating the board so you can collect them all at once. But depending on what game mode you're in, because it plays solo, co-op, and competitive, 1 to 4 players. Basically, your opponent can mess up what you're doing or sabotage there's a little bit of take that in the game. So I've demoed this game probably with 200 different people at this point through all the conventions I've been to, but basically people either like go for each other's throat and they're just like kind of sabotaging each other the whole time, or they just kind of focus and do their own thing. Sometimes you get a mixture of both, but that's people's normal first reaction to it. But again, it has a solo mode too, where you play against a goblin creature and environment hazards in the mine. And then the co-op mode, you work together to try and defeat a goblin creature as well. Um, but yeah, it like I said, it plays 1 to 4, and it actually comes in 2 boxes. So when we originally made this game, it was specifically designed for solo and duo gameplay, basically. But when we started demoing it with people, we got a lot of feedback that they'd like to play it at higher player counts because their game group is 4 people. There's a lot of, like, in the board game industry now, there's people that only solo game, there's people that only do group gaming, and then there's like everything in between, right? So we were like, well, that's great feedback, and it makes a lot of sense for us to be able to accommodate higher player counts. So there's 2 boxes, each have a different cover image, and when you put them next to each other, they make one cohesive cover together. But basically, one box can play 1 to 2 players. If you have both, you can combine them and play up to 4 players. And again, we did this to keep the cost price low for the solo gamers and duo gamers, which was the game's original intent. But we're happy that we can accommodate those higher player counts now as well. So that's one thing people have thought is pretty cool when I have the box in front of them and I slide them together, and they're like, "Oh wow, that's that's nice." I'm like,
Are
yeah.
are both boxes the same and they're just alternate art on the covers, or do you need like one's the 1 to 2 and one's the 3 to 4 expansion?
So they're both 1 to 2 players, but they have different cover images and they have different meeple characters and different goblin characters in them. But other than that, the art and the cards inside are pretty much the same. Some of the icons are different, so you can know how to easily separate the two games if you do combine them. But for the most part, they're the same. And again, we've had people that they only want to back one, and then they have the option: do they want to get the game that has the gnome that's purple and orange, or do they want the game that has the cyan and yellow gnomes in it? So they have that option as well.
They're both
And
great. I love all the art for this.
yeah, so the artist, her name's Gabby. She's super talented, did a great job. And her boyfriend Art is actually the designer of the game. But together we came up with the idea. We announced this recently, but it's called the Gnomify Yourself Pledge. And basically, you'll send us a picture, and we'll make a gnome art piece of you with your likeness, and also your own custom meeple as well that you can play in the game. And people have been responding to that really well, actually, because who doesn't want to play or have themselves as a meeple in a game, you know?
I love the Quinn the dog meeple.
Yep, yeah, that's my dog Quinn, the blue healer. You know, I try and sneak her into. I like putting Easter eggs into my games. She's in a few of them for sure.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's a really cool idea. Like, I like the simplicity of what you're getting, but the real like authenticity of it too. Like, just a little meeple, but it's so personal that you'd never really get that anywhere else.
Yeah, we've had people. They're like, obviously you could send like a loved one if it's going to be a gift for someone, or like I've had people reach out and they're like, "Hey, my, my my pet passed away. Can you do a pet?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that's kind of why we show the example of Quinn on the page as well, so people know that it doesn't just have to be like a human. It could be a pet. We'll do a cat, a hamster, a dog, a pet fish. I don't know, whatever you want. We'll make it happen. Gabby's very talented.
Have you gotten any custom goblin requests?
No, we haven't. We do have a Kickstarter exclusive where it's a goblin disguised as a gnome, uh, and its name is Gnome, Noam, and it has like a little like fake beard and like hat and stuff. I don't know if he's actually fooling anyone, Gnome, but that's a cool thing that you can actually play that goblin creature instead of one of the normal gnomes in the game. So that's a cool thing. That's going to be exclusive to the Kickstarter that all the backers will get.
Yeah, that's really cool. So how is the Kickstarter going so far for you guys?
Overall, it's really good. I've done quite a few projects. This is my fifth Kickstarter project, and I've done projects that fund on the very last day, and I've done projects that fund literally within an hour. So this one didn't fund on the first day, unfortunately, but that's okay. It's a roller coaster running Kickstarters for sure, but we've had like really steady growth every day. I mean, we're ticking away, get a few backers every day, and I'm fully confident that we're going to get to our funding goal. Right now, I think we're at 77% funded, and we have 15 days left. So I think we'll get there. Typically, the last 3 days of a campaign, you see a big jump as well in support. It's normally the first three and last three where you see a lot of support come in. But we've had a lot of cool things happening mid-campaign, like content creators releasing how to play videos or preview videos of the game, or even today, actually, with the barreled aged games team with their Fortify game, we did a backer rate initiative. So basically, we both did updates encouraging our backers to go to their project, back it for even $1, if just $1, to show support, and leave a comment, backer raid, mind your business, or backer raid Fortify on my page. And whoever has the most at the end is going to release something special to their backers, like an extra bonus thing. But that's been a really fun thing. A lot of people have been participating in it. And it's been cool to see the community rally together for that, because ultimately the thing was we want to support other indie small publishers. So that's why we're doing it. And getting more backers and comments helps with the algorithm on Kickstarter to feature your game and stuff like that. So we actually did that today, and it's been really cool. I think 20 people came from their campaign to support. I don't know how many of mine went over there, but we're going to keep track and tally it all up at the end there.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to help try to boost that signal and get the word out there. So, everybody listening, go and support, throw them, that dollar, let them know that you're there because you heard it here from the Game Deflators.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, this is a really cool game. We got a chance to demo it when we met you at the Game On Expo. And from all the different things that I've seen that you've done before, what is it that brought you to mind your business gameplay?
So I've done, as I said, I've done like 5 Kickstarter campaigns. I've also licensed games. I've developed a bunch of games, probably in total like 15 or something like that, all with different levels of success. Some of them were for my own indie publishing company, MB Board Games, and the majority of them were for another publisher I was working with. I've since left working with that publisher. I'm very proud of all the products that I developed and put out, but it wasn't a good fit, so I had to leave. But basically now the idea is focus on my own brand. And prior to this, the games that I designed and self-published were like drinking party games. So my first game ever was called Don't Get Drunk, and that actually went viral recently and sold out in like a month on Amazon. It got like 4
Nice.
million views on TikTok or something like that. So thank you for
Congrats.
anyone who supported that. And then I did like a beer pong style game. But in between all that time, I've been working on these, for lack of a better word, hobby style games. So that's why Mind Your Business now. I'm trying to transition from the casual drinking games to more hobby style games, but mainly because I just enjoy them a lot more. Also, I don't think I could balance another drinking game. My liver's pretty beat up from that. I need to take a break. Uh, but but yeah, so I'm doing hobby games, and the designer Art, who I mentioned earlier, we developed a lot of games together under that other publisher we used to work for, and we work really well together. So this is actually his design. He's the one who came up with the game, the gameplay, and all that. And then collectively, we decided, hey, let's work together under my publishing company. We make good stuff together. We work well together. We have fun together. And then me, Art, and his girlfriend Gabby, we all decided, how we should develop it and the art direction and things like that. And we all play different roles in it, the development basically of it. But I'm very happy to be working with him. And we actually have like 3 other games that we want to do together. It's just like we got to get this one going first, but we have a lot of stuff in the works, and we're always demoing and playing stuff. So we went to the World Series of Board Gaming event. It was the first year it ever happened in Las Vegas this year. It was pretty fun. I think everyone should attend next year. It was really cool, but it was competitive gaming with cash rewards. Anyways, we had a demo booth showing off Mind Your Business. We also got to show off some of the other games we're working on, and people were loving them. People were like, I would buy this now. I'm like, well, you got to buy Mind Your Business first, and then we can go to this one. So it was good to get that feedback. It's encouraging to hear positive feedback to keep the fire going and keep you motivated to keep doing stuff. Because as I said earlier, Kickstarters are a roller coaster. It's like full of ups and downs. There's days where like a couple people cancel their pledge, whether it's who knows the reason. Maybe something happened life wise. Maybe they decided it wasn't a good fit for them. But it's like it stings a little every time you see that happen. You're like, ugh. And then you get a backer though, and it's like a total new high. So yeah, it's a big roller coaster, these Kickstarters.
Yeah. Well, how was the World Series of Board Gaming? That sounds pretty cool. This was the first one?
Yeah, so this was the first year they did it, and it was a competitive board gaming event with cash prizes. And basically, there was 16 games that people could enter to play, and then whoever won those games, it was like tournament style. So if you won that game at one table, you would advance to a new table of the same game until there was one table where one person would be crowned the winner of said game, like one winner of Ticket to Ride or one winner of Great Western Trail. There was 16 of it. Then out of those 16 winners for each game, they would all forward to a table. There's 4 more tables where they would compete in games that they didn't win in. And the winner from those tables would go to a final table where there's 4 people where they would all compete in a game that none of them won in, to see who would win the world championship title. So it took I think the convention was 4 or 5 days long to get the whole thing done.
Sounds
So we had an
crazy.
exhibitor booth demo and Mind Your Business and showing that off. I didn't compete in any of the competitive games. I talked to a lot of people that did. I met people from all over the world too, like Finland, China. I think a guy from China actually ended up winning the whole thing. But the whole award ceremony was really cool. They gave out like rings if you won an event, and then they even had bracelets like the World Series of Poker. It was literally filmed, or it was literally in the same venue as the World Series of Poker. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so it was pretty cool. And the one thing, there wasn't a huge amount of like general admission there, which I told them is something they should work on for next year. But they had a ton of VIPs and like content creators attend the event, and I got to meet a lot of them, and they all were so nice. So like I got to sit down with Tom Vassell and actually play a game with him that I won. So, that felt good. And some friends. And I met Alex Radcliffe, Professor Meg, Danielle S. I don't want to mess up her name. Steven Bird. I met so many people. It was a lot of fun. And they all were like, sometimes people think like, ooh, these content creators, like kind of put them on a pedestal or something, or it's just like, oh, but everyone's just really down to earth and just like, hey, you want to play a game? And you're like, yeah, let's do that. It was like totally a really chill, fun event. And the people running it were super nice too, like so nice. And they actually told me, they're like, oh, we already locked in the next 3 years in this venue, so it's going to keep happening. And I hope more people attend it next year. It was a blast, and it's also in Las Vegas where I live, so I'm all about having more board game conventions where I live.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. When is it?
I think it's well, it was
I
like
mean, I don't know the
it was like
exact
a
date.
week
Like,
ago.
oh, it was just
Um,
recently. Yeah.
yeah, it was like a week ago or something, but the new dates are already out, and it
Okay.
is, let me look it up real quick. September 24th to the 28th for 2023. So basically, it's a year away. But yeah, they're going to do the whole thing again, and they have the games listed that they're going to compete in. They took out 4 from this year and added 4 new ones, and
Oh, that's cool to keep it fresh.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited. I might even try and compete next year. I actually was joking. I was like, I'm gonna sponsor players that are competing and get them like those dry fit e tournament. What is it? Like with my logo on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Envy Born Games.
Yeah, yeah.
Branded.
Sponsored by MV Born Games.
Get them
Like
out
an
there with some
MMA fighter with their
sweatbands
shorts
on.
or something.
Nice, nice. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. I'd love to
Hey,
go
who
to
knows?
something like that. That'd be really cool to attend.
It was fun. It was fun, honestly. And I think, I don't work for them or anything. I'm like plugging them kind of hard here, it seems like. But they had like, I think their main package was like $900, and you get 4 or 5 nights at the casino. So, that in itself has value, right?
Yeah,
And
that sounds like a
then
pretty good deal.
it gives you an entry ticket into 4 events to compete. I think you can compete in 4 max events. And if you did it normally, just to enter one event, I think is 250. So it's kind of like a huge way to save money. And then you get guest passes too to give to like friends or a spouse or somebody that you want to bring as well. So I think that would be, if someone wants to attend and actually compete, that's like the best value there is for
Man, I'll attend and sell my compete tickets because I would lose.
it.
So, what other kind of conventions or stuff do you have coming up in your future here?
So something I learned this year is I love going to conventions. One of my marketing things for Mind Your Business was to attend as many conventions as I could and meet people and have genuine connections. I mean, that's how I met you guys, right? But my next convention is going to be BGG Con, which is in Dallas in November. And I'm really excited for that. And then I might be going to PAX Unplugged as well. I applied for this like indie publisher competition where like they might pick you in your game and give you a free booth and tickets and stuff. So I'm
Ooh,
hoping I get picked
fingers
for that.
crossed.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. But those are the 2 that I might go to. Well, I'm definitely going to BGG Con, maybe PAX Unplugged, but that's for this year. And then I haven't even looked into next year yet. I know I'll go to Dice Tower West, which is in March in Vegas. Again, it's where I live, so obviously I'm going to that. But I want to try and go to as many conventions as I can because it's just A, I have so much fun at them. B, it's good for networking and like showing off my games and meeting content creators and just people in the community. And I already said this, but I just love them. They're just so fun, you know. But
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have to feel bad about it because I'm like, I'm working, I'm promoting my brand, you know, like I'm building a following, you know.
Yeah, it's great. We really enjoyed going to the Game on Expo, and we hope to see you there next year
Oh,
too.
I'll be there next year, 100%. It's a short drive for me, so I'm going.
Yeah, I know. I've got family up in Vegas, so I that's a nice easy drive for a weekend getaway.
Yeah.
So, before we let you go, why don't you let us know, other than Mind Your Business, what's a game, video, or tabletop that you would recommend?
Game or video or tabletop or video game. There's so many good ones. I guess tabletop. I'll just name some of my favorites. You know, I love Dwellings of Eldervale is a great game. I love Western Legends. It's like an open world sandbox style game, so you can basically do whatever you want. You could be a like a thief and rob banks and attack people, or you could be a gold miner and like go gold mining. You can just do whatever you want. You could go rob people, like whatever. The sheriff can arrest you. That's a fun one. Um, I'm a big fan of Quacks of Quinlanburg as well, and that's a low weight, low complexity kind of push your luck game that I think anyone can have fun with. And then video games, I mean, I can't. I'm gonna plug a game that's 20 years old. I like pretty much play Age of Empires 2 and
Okay.
RTS on the PC, you know, every other night. I know the game's like 20 years old, but I think it's the best RTS of all time. It is still around 20 years later, still having expansion and updates made for it. There's no other RTS that's 20 years old that's still happening too. And I debate people about this all the time, and they try and say StarCraft is the best one, and I'm like, I just tell them it's not. It's just not.
No.
StarCraft has 3 civilizations. Age of Empires has, I think, 45 or something crazy like that, and it's all balanced. It's just it stood the test of time. And then, you know, other than that, obviously Metal Gear games and the new Zelda game when that comes out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on so much. Why don't you let everybody know again where they can find you, where they can follow you, how they can support you?
Yeah, so if you go to Kickstarter and you search Mind Your Business, you'll see my game. Would love to have your support on it. We're getting closer and closer to that funding goal every day. It would be really great to hit it and take some stress off of me. So that'd be great. But even if you just pledge $1, like we were talking about earlier, that is a huge help because it helps with the algorithm. It helps with the backer count and things like that. But if you are a board gamer, this is a great game. There is a tabletop simulator version, so you can actually test it before you play it. There's a bunch of videos on how to play it, so you can watch people show you how to play it to see if you're interested first. But that's the best way to support Mind Your Business right now. And then if you want to follow me on any social medias, I've been having a lot of fun on TikTok lately. My handle's MV Born Games. That's also my handle on Instagram as well. And I'm like an older dude on TikTok trying to be hip, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've actually met a lot of people through it, and I just get silly on there. So if anyone wants to do that, come on over there as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And as always, you can follow us at the Game Deflators on Instagram and Facebook, at Game Deflators on Twitter because they don't like the. Leave us a 5-star comment, 6 stars if you can manage, and we'll see you again next time.
Six
Thank you.
stars. Sorry.
Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
See y'all.